Hello, friends. We are continuing our new series that we're doing here on Drop the Ball. That is highlighting all 30 Major League Baseball teams as a preview for the 2026 season. We're here for our second episode for the Colorado Rockies. We did the World Series champions, the back-to-back World Series champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers, so I encourage you to go take a look at that if you're interested. But here, we're here to talk about everything Colorado here. We're here to talk about the Rockies here. If you are unfamiliar with Drop the Ball, we are a Kansas City sports podcast, okay? So we're not too far from you guys. Feel free to drop in at any time. We are having audio files mostly, so go check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, XYZ. My name is Matt Robinson, and I am going to highlight this roster for you, for the Rockies. And it is not an amazing roster, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, it was one of the worst teams in baseball in 2025. However, they did have a lot of fun highlights. You know, they had probably the best game of the season against the Pirates, that crazy barn burner at the end at Coors Field. And another peculiar thing with the Colorado Rockies is, you know, they finish top 10 in attendance every year. So people love the ball club in Colorado. People love going out to the stadium downtown. But the ball club itself has not been great the past little bit. But there is a little bit of light on the horizon here. Let's kind of highlight what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the additions, the subtractions, look at the superstars of each team. There's not really a bunch of superstars on this team, but there's some like superstar capabilities and some breakouts from 2025 that we do need to highlight. Then we're going to talk about the starting rotation, the bullpen, what reinforcements are coming for the prospects, and then what I see them doing here. And like I said, my name is Matt. I'll guide you through this Colorado Rockies roster. And without further ado, let's look at what Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns have to deal with here. And first, with their key departures that ended up happening here for the 2026 season. Franchise staple German Marquez ended up not signing back, ended up signing a deal with the Padres. You know, Kyle Farmer was a guy that played with them for just a little bit, not really there. Michael Tolia was somebody who was non-tendered, a former top prospect for the Colorado Rockies that just didn't end up hitting. Ended up showing a little bit of power, but how much of that is cores and how much of that is actually producing, you know? And then Tyro Estrada, nice little infield piece, also gone as well. But yeah, I think that I also had Orlando Arce, I'm pretty sure. He was also there, and Austin Gomber, one of the last things from that Arenado trade, ended up leaving as well. So, I mean, I think if we're talking about the departures, you didn't lose anything. You lost money that was on your books. So personally, I think this is great. And they need a fresh start. Nobody from the past being here. I know Antonio Senzatella is still going to be there. But, you know, I personally think it's smart to just flush it all. You know, Paul DePodesta, brand new guy. There has to be a change. So get these guys out of here that have been here forever and clearly not helping the motivation of the team. Like, as strict as that might sound, or as brute as that might sound, I mean, German Marquez necessarily didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he's kind of only the great producers on this team for sure. But, you know, new blood, get people out of here that were a part of the oldness, and let's come in with the new. So if we look ahead to some of the additions that they can look forward to, I think a big highlight, and probably the biggest one here, is Michael Lorenzen. I am a Royals fan, like I said, so I did watch him the past couple years, and he was nothing but just a consistent, gonna take the ball every fifth day, going to be a bulldog on the mound, going to look out for his guys, and in the clubhouse, people love him. And honestly, when you're looking for guys to add to a team to turn around a franchise, those are the type of guys you're looking for. Like, you're looking for guys that can buy in, and all the guys around know he's done it. I mean, the guy's played for 10 years. He used to hit as well. So, like, it's one of those things that, you know, Michael Lorenzen, if you look back, like, he's had a pretty good career. Like, 10 plus years in the league, multiple teams, had a couple really good years as a starter. Like, at the end of the 2024 season with the Royals, he was incredible. Like, literally in their great rotation, he was maybe their best one there down the stretch, which is crazy. And so personally, I do think that Michael Lorenzen is a great addition for this team. Is he going to put up crazy numbers? No, I do not think so. I think that Michael Lorenzen is a clubhouse guy. He's the guy that you got to at least take the ball every fifth day and yuck it out there, and he's going to at least be there. I would not be surprised if Michael Lorenzen in these 2 years of a contract that he has a 5 ERA for it. And I know that sounds horrible, but I'm telling you, I think they needed just some consistency, some stability, somebody there that's going to just, take the ball. And I think he's perfect for them to turn around this franchise and like create an atmosphere where, the culture is, hey, we're going to get better every day. We're going to do this. I think Michael Lorenzen is perfect for that. And personally, it's a great addition for them. I think that if we look ahead to some others, they ended up giving Jose Quintana another chance to start. But it's one of those things as well that the Rockies need any pitching that they can get. Any pitching that they can get, they'll take. And just because they're not great at developing it, there's not really anything that's close, and they just need any help they can. That's why they ended up signing Tomoyuki Sugano as well, who ended up not really being great for the Orioles after coming over from Japan prior to the 2025 season. Wasn't really amazing. He is an older guy to come over. He's over 30. So it's not like he is somebody who is going to get better at the major league level and really, really like become this ace. I think he's definitely just somebody. He is who he is, and they need consistency. And there's one thing that Sugano did last year, and that he made starts. Like, that is one thing. So I do think getting guys like Lorenzen, Quintana, Sugano, guys that have at least been around, can show these young guys in spring and show these young guys that are in the rotation, like Chase Dollander and XYZ, show them like who to look forward to, and like and how to act at the major league level. I don't think it's any type of mystery to know that there were just people in the Rockies organization that didn't know how Major League Baseball worked. And that's how people did not succeed. And of course, that's generalization. I understand I don't know these people. However, I do think that it's one of those things that, like, the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day, and they just didn't produce, and they haven't for 5+ years. So moving on to some more additions that I really do think are good. Willie Castro, Edward Julian, Brennan Barnardo. Brennan Barnardo is actually a pretty good lefty came over from the Red Sox. They kind of put him in Azkaban, truthfully, because he's pretty old. So I mean, he's probably going to be here for a couple years and then be done. But if we're talking about these three guys, Willie Castro, Edward Julian, and Jake McCarthy, those three additions actually I think are really, really key for the Colorado Rockies. And that is because they raise your floor on this team. This team was not good in 2025. We already said that earlier, but they had guys on the roster like Blake Krim starting and Ryan Ritter starting. You heard of them if you're not a Rockies fan? Like, Jordan Beck actually had a pretty decent season for, what he is, and he's one of the guys that you can rely on. But like, literally, like, these guys that were playing for the Rockies in 2025, like, they were just not good options. Warming Bernabal ended up getting rid of him, and like, he was not terrible, but like, the floor on this team is so low, so many unproven guys that you just don't know what's going to happen. And when you get into a slump, and then all these guys that don't know how to play the Major League Baseball are all on the same team together, they don't know where to go. So truthfully, I think these additions of Edward Julian, Jake McCarthy, Willie Castro, they're great to increase the floor for this team. And I personally think that's great. I think that, like, we're going to look back, and not to just transition to the lineup here, but we're going to look back, and there's going to be a couple of these guys that are going to be pretty decent for you. So with that being said, let's take a look at the lineup here. I do like the additions of Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns, as a new direction is needed for this franchise. I have been to Coors many times, or not many, a couple, as I am from Kansas City. And like we said earlier, this is a Kansas City sports podcast, but we are highlighting this here. So I do think it's great that we have a new direction for the Rockies, because they needed it really, really badly. I mean, with their former general manager ended up signing Chris Bryant to that huge contract where he is injury city at the moment, and there was just a lot of interesting things with that. We won't talk about him. I won't bore that. He is not going to be a part of this roster more than likely for a good majority, and that money is probably going to go wasted for this upcoming season, because there's honestly way better talent to look forward to than Chris Bryant. I think that there is some decent talent on this Rockies team and some stuff at the prospect level that's pretty good. I think they needed to just a brand new direction. They got Paul DePodesta, they got Josh Burns, and so let's look ahead. And then at the end of the episode, I will also say something, because I believe there is some sort of premise that I think that this team should go through here. So let's get us started here. Let's start talking about the lineup. Of course, we got the guy that they extended here. We got Ezequiel Tovar. Another thing that I would say is I am using Fangraphs, and I know that as being a Royals fan the past my whole life, literally I know that some of this is going to be so incorrect, and that some of it they're just putting in names at times, and I realize as Rockies fans, you know what that's like. I know what that's like as well. So I'm going to say who I think is probably a better option if there is better options here. So I will go ahead and say that. But we got Ezequiel Tovar, that guy that you guys extended. The Rockies do see, a lot of promise in Ezequiel Tovar. Ended up not being terrible here in 2025. He could have done way better. It was definitely a letdown year comparatively to what he had previously, and based upon what he had. I mean, a 694 OPS, batting 250. That's not really what he's looking for. But not a lot of plate appearances. He dealt with some injuries there. So Ezequiel Tovar is that cornerstone and somebody that you signed. So I truthfully do think that that is somebody that you can rely on. That's probably all I have to say about Tovar. Ezequiel Tovar, he really needs to bounce back in 2026 if he really wants to be a part of this ball club moving forward. Not necessarily that, I guess he's locked into a contract, but before they move on from him or try to trade him away or try to get the value that he has right now, I think he really does need to produce in 2026. And I think he will. But moving on here, Mickey Monak's a really good addition that the Rockies got. They, like we said previously, they've just been a bad team, man. They've been a bad team, and getting him to a former first-round pick to show up and actually produce for the first time in his major league career, good for him. Sometimes you get these guys that slip through the cracks, and you're able to get this. Literally, he was the first pick in 2016 to the Phillies. So I think this is a great addition for them, at least something to have in your outfield for a couple years, and some major leaguers that, he's been around. He's struggled. It's a guy that you can have around the clubhouse that, he struggled, and he's come through it on the other side a little bit here. Not great success, but at least in Colorado, he had a little bit better. This is the guy here that we need to be talking about. Hunter Goodman. Hunter Goodman was such a surprise in 2025. At least for me, I didn't really have him on anything that I was taking a look at here. But also, it's one of those things that, I know that he was in their system previously, and he was somebody that was showing some promise, and he even literally played in 2024 for the Rockies. But, 31 bombs, 278 278 average, my man, I'm telling you, I think this was the season of Hunter Goodman. And sure, he strikes out a little bit. That's just what's going to happen at how he plays and his position. But he's pretty good behind the dish as well. I think this is one of your guys you try to extend, you try to keep with you. I think this is a guy that is part of the fabric of the Colorado Rockies, and you build around him, Tovar, Jordan Beck, stuff like that. So moving forward to Jordan Beck, another pretty good season. It strikes out a little bit too much, but it's his first year in the league. So it's one of those things that, he's going to be a part of what their future looks like. So I'm pretty interested in seeing what he has to say. This is where it gets a little interesting for me. The first base position is pretty much open for anybody to take in Colorado. That's why they have Troy Johnston here. Troy Johnston played a few games for the Marlins in 2025. He didn't really produce a bunch. He's just one of those things. Didn't play a lot, and he's just kind of bounced around. Not really been something great. He does have some on base ability here. So hey, if you're able to grab that, for awesome. It is one of those things that the Marlins were giving up on him, and the Rockies, like we said previously, they got to raise their floor. They have to raise the floor of the players that they have on their team. So I think that I think that Troy Johnston helps that. I don't know if he's going to be the starting first baseman here on this team. I don't anticipate that to happen unless he has a crazy spring. I actually have somebody who I think is going to win the job, but we'll get to him in a second. Brenton Doyle is an option that has been there for a couple years, was really a disappointing season in 2025 after having a pretty great 24 season, truthfully. He just really didn't do as much as he did previously. And like he can totally play up. He can play up if the team around him is playing a little better. But, I just think that they relied on him a little bit too much. He kind of seemed like he was trying to be the guy, and that just didn't work. So I'm looking for a bounce back from Brenton Doyle, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to trade him. He's got a lot of control left, so maybe not. But I was a little surprised he was not on the move, actually, just given how bad this roster is. Looking for upgrades in any way, shape, or form. Willie Castro is a little bit interesting. I think he's one of those guys that he's going to get traded at the deadline. He's one of those guys you sign him, and he's going to play all over the field, and he's going to play everywhere, and he's going to look really attractive for all 29 other teams whenever he gets traded. Jake McCarthy is a great option for the Rockies. Holy crap, he can play center field too. So if Brenton Doyle can't be out there, or maybe he's a little injured and you want to put him in right, maybe a little bit less defense focuses his eyes at the plate a little bit for Brenton Doyle. But Jake McCarthy, I wanted on the Kansas City Royals after the 2024 season. He had a really pretty bad 25 and really just didn't show the promise that he had shown previously. And so I think Jake McCarthy is one of those guys. Once again, you got to raise the floor. And Jake McCarthy on the Rockies, I think, is a great option. I think for the Rockies, it's something that's like, oh my gosh, this guy had shown some success, but he just doesn't really have a place on that other team. We have a place for you. Come over here. So yeah, Jake McCarthy's going to get, I think, probably 120 starts this year, and we'll see what happens. But I'm betting on him to bounce back. Okay, this sounds like I love the Rockies. Good God. However, I kind of do. However, they are in a very tough division, and they just really can get beat up a little bit. So that's the only thing I would say from there. This is the guy that if I'm a Rockies fan, if I was a Rockies fan, or if you're a Rockies fan right now watching this, tune in to Edouard Julien. As a Royals fan, watching him with the Twins and 2023-24, he was crazy. He just got on base at any stretch of the imagination, and he was just a pain in the ass. And those are the type of guys you need to have on your team sometimes. And I truthfully think that like Edouard Julien in a new place, getting an opportunity to play every day, which even though the Twins were pretty bad, but he's one of those raise the floor type of situations for you. I don't know if he's going to be great. I don't know if he's going to be awesome. I personally think that if you're looking for a Rocky to burst out onto the scene and really solidify themselves as being a part, I think this guy is that. Like, I think Edouard Julien has Colorado Rocky staple written all over him. Like, I think he's going to really, really take a step forward, so much so he might sign an extension in the offseason. I know that sounds crazy right now, but I would not put it past him. Really, I would not. I think getting an opportunity to play every day is really key. It's really, really important. So I think he's great. So let's move on to the starting rotation, where we talked about Michael Lorenzen a little bit, Jose Quintana, Tomoyuki Sugano. Like, we talked about those guys already, and those are your additions. They really, really needed to upgrade this rotation really badly. And honestly, this just takes it to a rotation that you feel comfortable at least throwing out there. Like, these guys have at least seen something. Like, you got a young guy, but you've at least got some guys out here that, they've been really disappointing. We've got Kyle Freeland after that great 2017 season that he had, and the Rockies feel like they need to hold on to any pitcher that does any type of success for them. So I think that Kyle Freeland, looking back, is probably not a great contract for them, but you need those franchise guys. You need to sell tickets. You need to have guys that people are familiar with. Kyle Freeland is a free agent after at least after, I think it's after this year. I just anticipate if they can move him, they probably will. It's going to be tough because he's been in the fabric of that organization for a while, but they really do need to just move on from him, truthfully. I know that as a Rockies fan, you might be like, what the hell? We love him. But he's averaged like a 4.98 probably the past couple years. So like I'm not going to sit here and say that Kyle Freeland's any good, like at all, like truthfully. Michael Lorenzen, I think, like I said, I think he's going to be really important to the psyche and the nucleus of your roster, not necessarily from a stats perspective. I do think he's probably going to put up these kind of numbers again, maybe more innings. But Quintana's up in the air. Who knows what you're going to get from him? Who knows what you're going to get from Sugano? I know that sounds horrible, but like, who knows what you're going to get from these guys? But at least they're veterans. At least they've seen the game. They can share some of their knowledge with some of these young guys, and you can go from there. Chase Dollander's a huge piece that was great at Tennessee. I loved him coming out of the draft. I do think Chase Dollander is going to be a part of this Rockies rotation in the future, but it's hard to pitch at Coors Field, man. It really is, and nobody really has figured it out quite yet. And that's why I feel like they've brought in Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns to figure that out. So Chase Dollander is going to be a part of this rotation for the next few years, and he's going to pitch regardless of what people think or how bad he does or how well he does. Like, I really think he has some upside. He just needs some help around him. And I think Michael Lorenzen will do that. I think some of their staff will help with that. And I'm really hoping for him to bounce back. He deserves it. I just don't know what would happen. So there are probably a couple other starting options here if we wanted to take a look at that. I mean, Carson Palmquist is one here that had some time last year. Ryan Feltner is another one. He had some time. I'm not moved. I'm not moved by Ryan Feltner, truthfully. Like, it's not special. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, he's depth for you, but if you expect anything from him, I think you're going to be let down. Like, I think Carson Palmquist is one that, you can at least have because he's one of your guys. Like, he's one of your guys, and he's pretty fresh to the major leagues. So he's honestly, we don't know what's going to happen. So I'd look for him to kind of take a little bit of step forward. But yeah, we got some guys like Gabriel Hughes and McCade Brown that even McCade Brown had some service time here and made his major league debut. So, it's one of those things that they just are trying to get as many arms here to help them out as possible. A lot of it's not great. They have these crop of guys are okay, but they really need to take a step forward, and they really need help in their development process, which it's not these guys' fault personally. Like, their development process with the Rockies has just been so bad from a pitching perspective. And that starts with they don't know how to pitch at Coors Field. They don't know how. Nobody's figured out how. So why do you think that they're going to tell these kids successful information on how to pitch? They don't know how either. So it's one of those things that we'll see what happens, but these are guys that are going to be placeholders until some of your prospects are ready. It's just going to be a long time until that time is. One guy I wanted to talk about here, we're talking about that first base spot, TJ Rumfield. You ended up acquiring him from the Yankees for Andre Chivali. I don't know honestly how to say that, but this guy, honestly, is not going to be a bad option, I don't think, for you. Like, he's 25. He's an older guy. He's not really made his debut yet. So he's kind of untapped. But in that Yankees system, I'm kind of surprised they let him go because, I mean, Ben Rice is there playing first base, but they must see something that they just don't really quite like about it. But once again, the Rockies are going to take guys off of roster at the bottom of other rosters because they're just going to be better than the guys that the Rockies have on their roster. Just being so truthful. I think TJ Rumfield is somebody that could come in and play really, really good for the Rockies, truthfully, because there's just no expectation at first base. Like, he could come in and they'd be like, oh my God, this guy actually can hit. Holy shit. And somebody like TJ Rumfield who legitimately gets an opportunity to play every day, just like Edward Julian, like, gets an opportunity to play every day, and he's consistently at the minor league level hit 15, like, he has consistently hit 15 homers. Like, he's had a high on base. Dude had 31 doubles all at the AAA level last year. Like, this guy's ready to at least take a shot, like take a flyer at in the major league level. Like, look at this. Like, come on. Like, ending up the past couple seasons 294, 285 with a 370 plus on base. Like, come on. I think this guy needs an opportunity. Who knows what he's going to turn into? I just think it's a good get for them. So who knows what he's going to be, but if you're looking for guys to look out for as a Rockies fan, TJ Rumfeld is one. Edward Julian, Jake McCarthy, these guys that they got to just like fill the holes on their team because they don't really have a lot of talent. Like, these guys given an opportunity to play every day could be very good. Truthfully, they could. Last thing here, talking about the bench and the bullpen here. If we're talking about the bench, Tyler Freeman is one that, like, he's going to make a lot of starts this year. He's probably going to play 100 games regardless of where he plays, whether that be the outfield, whether that be at third base, at second base, XYZ. Like, I don't know where Tyler Freeman's going to play, but he had a pretty good season last year, like, from a hitting perspective. I know that WAR is not really too nice to him, but if we're talking about it, average, he's gotten on base at a 350 clip. Like, come on, what do you want from him? So I think that, like, especially on this team, like, it's not like he's playing on the Dodgers and he's like, oh, well, you're batting 280, you're barely playing, you're not playing even good defense. Yeah, I don't know. No, you're on the Rockies. You should get a shot here. So Tyler Freeman's going to play 100 games. I just don't know where. If we look at like Ryan Ritter and Blaine Crim and blah blah blah. I think Blaine Crim, Ryan Ritter's actually a pretty decent spot here, but like Blaine Crim and like Braxton Fulford, if like somebody pulls out of nowhere and is decent and younger than them, they're going to lose their spots. So we'll see. Of course, I hope the best for all these players, but we got to be realistic with expectations at times. So moving on to the bullpen, and then we'll get into the prospects, and I'll go from here. I really like Victor Vodnik. Actually, I think he's really solid. He strikes guys out. Strikes guys out. He almost struck out one an inning last year. At a 3 ERA, man. Like, come on. Like, with one of his first times, truthfully, getting an opportunity to play at the major league level, you can't ask for more. You truthfully can't. And like, he's going to be a part of that for right now, and honestly, looks like he's going to be their closer moving forward. So good for them. I'm glad that they were able to do that. Jimmy Herget was also really good for the Rockies this past year. Holy crap, a 2.4 with 83 innings pitched. I heard the Jimmy Herget's name like here and there, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I was looking into some more of his numbers, and I was like, holy shit, he was amazing. So good for him. I mean, you got to have some decent options in the bullpen. But, I mean, another young arm for this team that, you can kind of rely on and, like, look towards the future for is Juan Mejia. Like, Juan Mejia, I mean, yeah, a 3.96 is not incredible. Like, it's, in the bullpen, it's not incredible. But, dude pitched 61 innings for you. Like, so yeah, I think Juan Mejia is somebody that you can kind of rely on to look towards the future on. Like, I think he's somebody that you can at least say, hey, we've developed him, and he's a guy that we can put in our bullpen with Vodnik and Herget and go from there. Like, these are not the worst options in Major League Baseball. I would just like to say. And then Self Halverson, a lot of gas behind that arm there. I do think that, like, he's probably going to come around a little bit better. Like I said, they just need, earlier in the episode, I said they really need some development help with the Rockies. Pitching development is just, they need it bad. And that starts with trying to learn how to freaking play there. But anyway, Brendan Barnardo, we talked about earlier. They needed a lefty in the bullpen, looks like. And then this is their Rule 5 pick. That's RJ Petit. Yeah, he's the really, really tall guy from the Tigers. Got that bullpen and starter flexibility, but I think he's probably going to come out of the pen here for you. And he had some pretty good numbers in the minor leagues for the Tigers. So if they can solidify that bullpen, if the starters aren't that great, if they can solidify the bullpen, man, like, that's one step. It's one step in the process, okay? Keegan Thompson is a guy that, I mean, you hope you can get something out of him. And then, of course, Antonio Senzatella, they're counting down the days till his contract ends. So, yeah, look at that garbage. So, yeah, we were talking about Chris Bryant, about how, I'm telling you, he was talking earlier in spring about this degenerative disc disease that he's been dealing with. And, guys, that's going to be a problem. Like, he might not play again. And I think that if you're a Rockies fan, you're listening to me and you're like, dumbass, we know. But he might not play again. He's never going to play with the way he was. Like, unfortunately, it just could be an unfortunate circumstance with this. And that's why I think you need to cut Chris Bryant as soon as possible. Like, I think you need to just take the money. Just take the L, pay him the money, get him out of here, stop relying on him, stop relying that anything's going to happen with him. Like, and not that they're doing that anyway. I think Paul DePodesta pretty much is like, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. So yeah, I think that this team is not great. Okay. And in an NL West that is very competitive, with the Padres, with the Dodgers, with the Giants being really good again, and are really upgrading their team. And then the Diamondbacks not being a slouch either. It's the best division in all of baseball. Like, it is. And unfortunately, they're just a bad team in the best division in baseball, and they're just gonna get run up. They're just going to get run up in almost every contest that they play. It is better for them that they don't play a shitload of games against the division like as what they used to. They get to play the whole league with the new schedule here the past couple of years. But unfortunately, it's just not really going to be it's not going to be something that we look at the end of the year, and I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to have some fun surprises, like I said. Like, I think they might win 70 games. And if you win 70 games as the Rockies this year, honestly, that's going to be like, holy shit, like, they got something cooking. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, let's look at their prospects. And another reason why I think that this team is kind of in a hole, and the Royals went through this a couple years ago where, like, none of their prospects were good. They kind of have had to rebuild their entire system, and our new ownership kind of just had to make the proper changes. And unfortunately, the Rockies are kind of in this situation as well. Like, let's look at these guys that are your top guys: A ball, double A, A ball, rookie ball, like high A. Like, the first guy is Zach Veen, and Zach Veen looks like he freaking took steroids in the offseason. He did. I don't know if he did or not. I don't want to start that here. However, he looks humongous. He's a completely different person. Go take a look at that if you haven't yet. But, like, Zach Veen's probably going to make some starts on this Rockies team. But if we're talking about what the Rockies can look forward to, like, these guys are down here, like Palmquist, like who we were talking about, Hughes, who we were talking about earlier, like the Sterling Thompson guy, like. It's pretty unfortunate that and RJ Petit, there's this guy we were talking about. He's literally 6'8", 300, dude. Like, look at this guy. This guy's a effing monster. But yeah, I mean, this guy I think is going to be a pretty decent shot for them, and I think TJ Rumfield is going to be a pretty decent shot for them. He's just pretty old, so like he's going to have to produce pretty soon. So if we're looking at the top prospects, all the guys at the top are just really young, and they're just pretty far away. Like, I think Carrick is in spring training right now, so is Charlie Condon. Like, if we're looking at what the Rockies can look forward to, we're looking at like 2028. Like, I think that's what you're looking for, because by then Condon is probably debuted and playing a little bit. Ethan Holliday's probably getting to the majors by that point as well. So, like, it's one of those things that they are just in a really, really unfortunate position that they're not good right now. They don't really have good depth, and they don't really have anything coming. They have it coming. It's just gonna be in a couple years. And like, look at and that's the thing that I would like to say is, like, look at Brody Brecht. Like, Brody Brecht is like a competitive balance pick, pretty high pick, and he's not playing bad. Like, he's not playing bad. You have JB Middleton, who they just drafted, who a lot of people like. He's a second-round pick. You got, like, Max Bellew, who came out of Texas and was really solid. Like, a lot of people loved him. Like, now he wasn't really great there, but who knows? That's just half the season here. Like, you got some guys that have some legitimate promise and some guys that put up some good numbers. Like, Griffin Herring put up good numbers, guys. Like, there are some guys that look pretty decent. Like, even in 9 starts, Gabriel Hughes had a 3. That's why he got called up to the majors, because they have nobody else. Like, they have some options that are not terrible. It's just they're a long way away. And I think that if we could be talking about them in a couple years if they get their head on straight. Paul DePodesta actually knows what's going on here. If that happens, I think that it's possible that this team can in 2027, 2028 start to compete a little bit more. But if we're talking 2026, unfortunately, I just think they're in the cellar and the NL West. It's it's the most competitive division, and they're just the worst by a lot in it. And I do like the Rockies, which leads me to this. I have one last thing to say about the Rockies, and that is that I think that they should do something here regarding their ball club. Clearly, what they've done in the past has not worked. It has not worked. How they've tried to deal with Coors, how they've tried to mess with it, XYZ, and also what I'm about to say here is going to be way easier said than done. And I hope that Paul DePodesta and I are somehow aligned in how this is thinking. However, I think that the Colorado Rockies need to do something very important. And that is, they need to put every single resource into their development plan, into their pitching. And I think Josh Burns, their general manager, who came from the Dodgers, is a good start. But they need to develop pitching, and that's what they need to be masters of. Develop pitching. I don't care, and regardless of how, don't try to figure out Coors, because Coors is just going to be Coors. You're not going to be able to be let's do the science and let's try to mess with the altitude, blah, 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 blah. No. Just focus on pitching. Focus on pitching well. Focus on the art of pitching, and I think you'll be able to do this. Now, put all the resources that you have into pitching. This is what I think should happen. Put all your resources into pitching and then pay for your bats. There's no reason why the Colorado Rockies should not have been in on Pete Alonso. How many homers would Pete Alonso hit at Coors Field? Yes, I understand they're not going to pay that kind of contract. I get that. But you just paid Chris Bryant this, and sure, that was an old general manager. But it's one of those things for me that I'm you need to spend all your money on bats. And yes, if you're picking number one in the draft, and there's a Rock Chalosky or a Charlie Condon type at number 1, 2, 3, wherever you're picking, yeah, sure, take them. But everything else needs to be pitching. If you're 10 or lower in the picks next year in 2027, pick a pitcher, pick pitching, only pick pitching, and develop that. So then you have these guys that you can develop and put all your resources into that. And I think if you go from a 3 true outcome from the offensive perspective, sure, have some guys that can get on base, some speed, XYZ. But if you go into the power, there's no reason that these guys should not have been in on Eugenio Suarez. What are we doing? Eugenio Suarez and Pete Alonso, what are the 2 biggest needs on this Rockies team? Third base and first base. There's no reason that they should not have been in on them. I mean, the only reason that I would say is because it's their Paul DePodesta's first year, and they want to see what they have. That happened with the Royals in 2023. They just wanted to see what they had. They didn't want to add anybody. They wanted to see what was possible. I do think that plan is not necessarily terrible. However, I do think that they need to pay for their bats and develop their pitching. And I know that's way simpler said than done. But I just think that nothing else has worked. So if you want to sit here and say well, that's ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? I would say, well, nothing else has worked, so why not? Why not? Nothing else that you have done the past 5 years, past 8 years, almost the past decade, since 2017, has not worked. Nothing. Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. So I strongly think that they need to develop pitching and steal the best guys from the Dodgers, from the Brewers, from the Rays. Take those guys, pay them all the money they want. It doesn't matter. Your team sucks. Your team is not good. So flip the switch and develop all this pitching, pay for all your bats, and then money. Here's the thing. You guys sell tickets top 10 every single year. You don't think that Pete Alonso and Eugenio Suarez would more people would just be oh yeah, well, they're at least entertaining. They'll at least hit ton of bombs. Like, that's what it is. If you're going to say, well, we still get a lot of people coming out to our park, so we're not necessarily going to make crazy upgrades. No, you should highlight guys that specifically hit home runs and bring them into town, because that's what Coors Field is about. And I just think that it seems so simple to me. It's way easier said than done, I know. I just really, really believe that this Rockies team can be something that is not terrible, but they just have held themselves back at an organizational level, and that's why they got Paul DePodesta. That's why they got Josh Burns. So I think it's something that you can look forward to as a Rockies fan, that you might have the right people. And the only thing I would say is Paul DePodesta is the guy that traded for Deshaun Watson and was behind that whole thing from the Browns. So that's the only thing I would say. I tend to trust him, but it's one of those things that, who knows what's going to happen. And so with that, let's take one last look at what this roster, what this lineup looks like. I think that this team is going to be the worst team in the NL West. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. But I do think that it provides a little bit of promise. Like, you got some guys that legitimately could come out and have some pretty good seasons. So with that, I will wrap this up. Definitely take a look at the other stuff that we're going to be doing here. We'll look at the Dodgers preview. Even though you are in the same division as the Dodgers, you might not want to see that, but check that one out. We're doing all 30 teams here, so definitely let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if I'm wrong, if you think I'm stupid, if you think that I'm absolutely crazy for having my opinions about the Rockies, or you think I'm just so wrong. You tell me, okay? Make sure to like this if you did like this stuff, and until next time, don't drop the ball.